Consider yourself lucky for clicking. And thank you very much. We are the eyes of your eyes. Watch till the end. Let's dive in.
In my opinion, it is highly unlikely there will be a war with China. China won't start one. Neither would Australia, they would be mad. Or the Japanese, they don't have the capability. But the USA, knowing how profitable war has become, might try to start one. It could, like many other conflicts they've started, come about through a false flag operation. Perhaps the sinking of an Australian or a Japanese ship carried out by a submarine. This will then escalate, and whichever country was hit would of course hit back on China. But then China almost certainly will not react. They will know it was a false flag because they didn't do it. They will offer evidence that it was a false flag, and their lack of response to this retaliatory strike on them would be the telltale that it was a false flag. However, if there is a war, we'd be forgiven for thinking that the safest place on the planet will probably be a US base. China might retaliate by attacking Japan or even Australia. I doubt it, but let's say it's possible. But it will never attack any US facilities there. To do so would escalate the war to NATO members. An attack on one is an attack on all. So if Japan or Australia is attacked, people will head for the safety of the US base. But the US base would not be a safe haven at all. Because if you're not an American passport holder, waving your passport above your head for all to see as you approach a US military installation, even if it is in your country and on your country's land, you're likely to be shot. If you happen to live in a country where US bases are prolific, there's a much stronger possibility that you will be shot, robbed, or raped by a US service person than you are by anyone from the local population or the Chinese military. US bases may not be US territory like an embassy is, but they are protected under US law. Australia, among others, has a growing US presence because of this perceived threat from China. Now, we know Americans can and often do shoot people trespassing, and it's perfectly legal. Kyle Rittenhouse, a 17-year-old boy, took a firearm to a protest, and he shot 3 people. 2 of them died, and that was deemed perfectly legal too. Now imagine being in a large group, desperate for safety, and approaching the only safe place you can think of, the nearest US base, and let's be clear, in some countries there are many of them. That base will assume you're hostile and can legally gun you down. I know this for a fact because as a young police officer back in the 1970s, I was assigned to stand outside the US Embassy in London. I once had a discussion with the Marine on duty who told me clearly, if there's anyone out here with a gun, you hit the deck, son. Because inside that building, there was enough firepower to take down, I think, half of London. This message is for Australians, but it applies to every country where the US bases, and particularly so where US bases are growing in number or expanding in size, or both. Now, this escalating threat of China fails to consider one reality. China is unlikely to invade anyone because it has neither the psychology, the societal behavior, or the military capability for, nor a history of, invasion. Psychological studies done by many different experts have shown that historically and culturally, Chinese people are not likely to go to war. Not outside their own borders anyway. They might have disputes inside. Read Michael Harris Bond's Beyond the Chinese Face, or even Henry Kissinger's On China for further information about that. Societally, Chinese are likely to invade Australia. They love kangaroos, they love koalas, and they're fascinated by platypus. They love to barbecue and they enjoy the outdoor lifestyle. But an invasion of tourists, especially tourists rich enough to visit and spend thousands of dollars on each trip, that's the kind of invasion Australia wants and right now needs. Whatever governments and their experts think, Chinese people love Australia and they just want to be friends. Militarily, China's naval fleet is big, but it's not a global threat. It's designed to protect China's shores. China is not capable of sending a fleet to threaten, let alone invade, Australia. China's Air Force is quite capable, again, of defending its shores, but it doesn't include long-range bombers. There's no B-52s. And some experts have estimated, only an estimate, that China has doubled its rocket capability to 300 rockets. They're capable of reaching the USA, but they're never enough to overwhelm Australia or the USA in the event of a war. USA, on the other hand, while claiming peaceful intentions, seems to find itself involved in interdictions, interventions, confrontations in many countries, and it provides military support to fledgling terrorists like Osama bin Laden, and enemies when they were once friends, such as Saddam Hussein. They went to Iraq because Colin Powell said there were weapons of mass destruction there. They weren't. They went to Vietnam because Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara said, a Vietnamese boat torpedoed one of ours. We now know it didn't. They went to Afghanistan to replace the Taliban because the Taliban refused to hand over Osama bin Laden. They refused because USA had not provided evidence of his involvement. And rather than provide that evidence, they invaded the country. But they didn't. It was called an involvement. Several years later, they killed bin Laden in what can only be described as an extrajudicial execution. Surely he was innocent until proven guilty, no matter what you think of him. But they changed their laws to suit a wartime situation. They declared a war and killed what might have been an innocent man if the evidence had all been heard. And in doing so, they also invaded the sovereign territory of Pakistan. They went to Korea and Vietnam to stop the spread of something that could not possibly spread to the USA. Communism. Communism is an interesting word. It's a derivative of the word communal. People working together for the benefit of all, rather than the benefit of an individual. The USA is, by all academic research standards, culturally impossible to be communist. Americans are individualistic by nature. Now, this is not an opinion, and nor is it a bad thing. It's just a fact. If you read behavioral psychologists such as Gerd Hofstede or Alfonso Trompenas, and I've linked them in the description, for more on what it means, communism is, as far as the USA concerned, no threat whatsoever. America was fighting a ghost or a shadow, and certainly not fighting a threat to their national security. National security. This is the reason constantly given by the US for their incursions, not invasions, into other countries. USA calls China a threat to their national security because China has built a defense force capable of defending its own country against the USA. It's clear to see what they're defending against. The US has already defended its national security in Korea and Vietnam, both China's neighbors, in Iraq, Middle East, Guatemala and Panama in Central and South America. There are dozens, perhaps hundreds more places which have seen US soldiers arrive, kill, maim, loot, and leave. Or maybe in some cases they didn't leave because at least 80 countries They still have US defending their national security. China, on the other hand, has never taken its army outside of its borders for longer than a month, ever. China's not the threat. How could it be?
Oh, is that true? Is China not really a threat with the 5th gen fighters like the mighty dragon? Practice makes everyone perfect. This the eagle practicing to catch something down
It is
on Earth.
2023. If you are following a religion in 2023, what are you doing? You must know by now that you should be studying all religions, find the syncretisms, and understand that they all say pretty much the same thing metaphysically. And you need to evolve from that. Stop being brainwashed. Religions have been recreated and redefined to control you. You need to ascend above it. It's simple. You are the Christ. You are God. You are an expression of God. God is all-knowing. You are all-knowing. You have intuitive discernment. You just have to tap in. You have to turn inward. You have to do the work. Listen, they project all this Christianity, Christ thing, and it's hogwash. Like, you start to wake up. I went to church since I was a child. For almost 30 years, I went to church. I studied biblical rhetoric. And I was even running around telling people only Jesus can save you. But no, Jesus is not going to come down and save you. They want you to think that, so you keep your fat ass on the couch and no one come and you just sit there. And then every time something happens with the government, you come and you allow them to shove their arm so far up your ass, it works your mouth like a puppet. Okay? You need to save yourself. Stop waiting for Jesus, get off your ass, do the inner work, do something about it. Stop reciting scripture. If you believe in the Bible, then you must believe that we are born out of incest. The Bible literally promotes slavery. It doesn't condone it at all. Like, there's so many parts of the Bible that contradict what we experience. And they're like, well, everything that's happening is in Revelation. Listen, the Bible has been rewritten, and it is the government's manifesto. You need to wake the French toast up. I want to cuss so bad. Wake up, please, for the love of all that is holy. Okay? People are like, you need to get in tune with Jesus. I did it for 30 years. Okay? I watched my auntie do Bible study and praise Jesus. She was the most kindred spirit I've ever met. I literally spent day and night with this woman. She had rheumatoid arthritis, and she believed that Jesus would come down here and heal her. And she ended up passing away from like a blood clot. Or she had an aneurysm, but she passed away and Jesus didn't come. You don't understand how detrimental that was to me. I spent day and night with her doing Bible study all the time. And I watched this woman pass away, perish, and know Jesus. And then I find out that Jesus isn't even his name. His name's Yeshua, if he did exist. And it's like, you learn all of these contradicting things, but that element of consciousness is so rooted into your life. That is what we're fighting. We are fighting a pandemic of improper ways of thinking mixed with a consciousness that cannot accept change. Regardless if the truth is right in front of you, smacking you in your face, tap dancing you in your face, doing a whole charade, giving you pop-up pictures, mazes, little clues in all the movies and films. It doesn't matter what it is. It's right there in your face. But no, I want to be left-brained and stay in the same freaking place I've been in the last 10 years of my life. I want to work a 9 to 5. I want to give 10% of my money to a church. I want to do these things because it makes me feel better. Listen, I'm telling you, the brainwashing needs to stop, and we need to come together. And there is an opposition. There is a collective that is working against us consistently. They're trying to take our rights. They're coming for our potential. They're coming for everything that makes us who we are. Let alone, not to mention, they are doing shit and literally so much things I want to say right now, but I'm not going to because I know it's censored. And this is why it's important for you to enroll into the Celestial University when the application comes, because as I'm going to have a community, it's like a Facebook community on the app where I'm not censored and I can say the things that I want to say because it's obvious what's going on, but people lack a fucking spine. You lack a spine to do what you need to do. That was a rant.
Huh?
But yeah, thank you. Hi, how's everybody doing? I'm sorry. I literally was just. Whew.
So having been brought up in a Christian household, I agree with that guy completely, man. This guy is like using birds to hustle. This is a hustling bird, man. Focused on the grind. She. Watch till the end. And which one you like the most, man? Clever crow. Follow him if you like him, man. Shit. Like this crow have a crush on this cat or what? Shit. When the place there's a cat here, was just, like swinging the baby. Cats are just cool, man. Oh, this dog watching over a baby here, faking to sleep with it. Oh, what's it?
I just want to say this. If you guys are eating meat products, if you're eating chicken, I'm going to ruin meat for you right now. Cows are GMO products made for us to eat. And when I say cows are a GMO product, is cows didn't exist. Buffalo did. And there were no black and white species. And it's not just that. The cows that you're eating that are on the shelves today share 80% of our DNA. So it's a GMO product for you to consume. And it shares our fucking DNA. So you're basically eating a human. And it's not just that. If you're eating chicken, chicken is far worse. Chicken right now is like the number one, it's responsible. It's the number one cause for, I think it's colon cancer in men. Prostate cancer. One of those things. And the thing is, they don't tell you these things. And the reason that is because the average life of a chicken is supposed to be 7 to 8 years, or 6 to 8 years, or something like that. But the thing is, the chicken is pumped up with chemicals, and it's fully grown by day 40, so it can be chopped up and be ready, shipped, and consumed by day 50. So you have to understand, none of these meat products are good. Unless you're, the best thing that you can eat is wild caught fish from the ocean. But there's mercury poisoning. No, you're completely fine. As long as you're not eating anything farm raised and you're eating fish once in a while, that there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, like, we choose not to do that. How to be vegan. We're not even vegans. We're frugivores. We eat fruits. I'd still eat honey. That's not considered to be vegan, but I think that honey has some of the strongest properties because as long as you're getting it from a good source, I think honey is transcending.
Very true.